Hello, and welcome to a special bonus episode of the Geekly, where we are talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths.
This is going to be full spoilers, parts 1, 2, and 3 that have just aired this week. So if you haven't seen them yet, go and watch them. Come back. We'll still be here. Let's start right at the beginning. I thought episode 1 was a good episode. I thought it did everything you'd want it to do, set up the crisis, showed us the stakes. Harbinger was like an intergalactic Uber, bringing everybody to Earth 38.
I found episode 1 kind of underwhelming. I thought, the first 2 minutes in the intro where we saw all the different Earths, that was, the coolest part of the episode, and then it just kind of went downhill from there. Part 1 was just a lot of exposition that I thought they could have more easily woven into the shows before we got to Crisis.
If you think about Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, Batwoman, Legends is coming next year. Black Lightning supposedly actually did do some kind of little setup, which I was unaware of until today, but there was nothing really. The main one was when Barry went to Earth 3, and when Oliver went to Earth 2 being wiped out. Oliver saw all these, he had his Doctor Strange moment, saw all the permutations. That was it. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything that Supergirl did. They've mentioned the Monitor in dribs and drabs. Batwoman, absolutely nothing. But there could have been so much heavy lifting done in the seasons, like you say correctly. And I'm not really defending it because, like I said, I have watched it back a second time, and I do lean more towards your comments than I did my own when I did my hot take on Monday. I just feel like there may be people who haven't watched Arrowverse in 3 or 4 years.
I mean, there is that.
Yeah.
There are the people who aren't really into the Arrowverse but are really into Crisis because, who wouldn't be? It's kind of like a love letter to DC fans, beyond the Arrowverse. We have references to, Adam West's Batman. We've got Brandon Routh's Batman. Superman.
Now, that would be interesting.
That would be interesting. Kevin Conroy. Titans made an appearance briefly as, one of the Earths in the universe.
I've written down a full list here of every Earth and every person that was in it that whole breakout at some point. But you're quite right. It's a love letter. And yeah, it charmed me. It charmed me enough to overlook the flaws, probably because I'm a soft touch. You're not. You need a bit more.
Yeah, it was a good episode. I'm really into Crisis. I've enjoyed all 3 episodes. So part 1 was a lot of exposition and backstory. Part 2, they started moving the players around and getting them into position. I would have preferred that to be where we started than to have all of the exposition.
Yeah, in hindsight, this feels like a prologue, and I think that all could have been done in the shows rather than this needing to be one part of Crisis. The main set piece this week, or in this episode, was I think 6 of the main characters on Earth 38. Where the Monitor basically said, you're taking your last stand here, can we defend the planet? And what were they called, shadow demons? Was it shadow demons? They look like dementors. I thought their souls were going to be sucked out through their mouths. I didn't really buy them as an enemy, first and foremost. Secondly, seeing arrows and kicks being able to disrupt these they look like smoke, they didn't look
I really wasn't into the fight. It just, the Arrowverse has some really good fights, particularly Arrow.
Yeah.
That's one of their specialties. But this fight scene, it looked, and I think it's a problem with the special effects. The actors weren't lined up with the shadow demons at all, and it looked really cheap and poorly thought out.
It was just a very formulaic just do this thing. This is the thing you have to do to buy people more time to get through the portal that Nina's created. And then the Monitor basically says to himself, yeah, this this Earth is done. We've done what we can. Off we go. And he was zapping them off one by one, Batwoman, Supergirl, Superman, etc. But Oliver fought him off, bought himself another 30 seconds of time, and
saved another billion people, which is, pretty good for 30 seconds.
Yeah. I love that the Monitor basically does his calculations, and by my calculations, he saved 1 billion people. Great. And there it is, the end of the first episode, and Oliver Queen dies. This was a shock to me. I was expecting him to at least, we assume he's dying anyway, but I assumed it would be maybe the Arrow episode.
Yeah, I thought he would die in the Arrow episode, or maybe the very final part of Crisis. I thought he was going to be there through the whole thing. I was really surprised that they killed him in the very first part. And I feel like it was kind of a mistake because we got him saying all of his goodbyes right off the bat. Inevitably, we are going to see more Oliver Queen later on in Crisis. So it's kind of one of those moments where they've robbed us of the weight of Oliver's death. I think when one of our patrons made that comment, and I think it was a really apt observation that, by having him die so early on, knowing that, well, those of us who are familiar with the Arrowverse know that he's going to come back at some point. He's not going to be on the sidelines for the rest of Crisis. But yeah, it really, really robbed that death moment of its full weight and importance, and particularly since Arrow is ending, I feel like fans deserved that moment.
I would agree with you word for word on Monday. Today's Wednesday. After seeing episodes 2 and 3, my feelings have evolved slightly, but we'll come to that when we come to that. Any other comments on episode 1?
No, that's about all I have for episode 1.
I've actually rated these numerically, like I've given them a number rating. I don't know why, but I felt compelled to do it, and I've given episode 1 a 6.5, which I thought was like a strong beginning. It set the foundations.
That's a fair rating.
Yeah.
6.5.
Yeah, it did all the heavy lifting, strong foundations, and has my intrigue. I was very kind of curious to continue and to watch on, as I would have been if I'd given it a 2.
Even if it had been the worst episode ever, I would have been like, okay, well that sucked, but give me part 2.
Yeah, and the real sad thing is that a lot of people shit all over this on the internet. Episode 1, they're all saying, oh, we've got Daredevil, we've got Titans now in the DCU. These great big money shows, they make this look a lot worse. And I would never rank an episode of the Arrowverse against Netflix Marvel. I would never rank it against a DCU show. I'd rank it against things like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, that level of TV,
Yeah, I mean, the CW isn't blockbuster television. You think about, some of the HBO shows or the DC streaming shows, like, they have a lot of money coming behind them. CW is kind of, I don't want to shit on the
poor relation.
Yeah, I don't want to shit on the CW, but it has a very specific audience. It's kind of like the late teens, early 20s demographic.
Yeah.
They aren't one of these huge studios that can throw money around left and right. So I think comparing them to, a Netflix studio,
it's apples and oranges, isn't it? It's just there's no point in doing it. But I would rank most of these first 3 episodes above anything I've seen from the Arrowverse in 2 or 3 years.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, it's not even
without
a competition.
question.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we move on to part 2?
Yeah, let's move on to part 2, which came in the Batwoman episode, and I had to make a little chart of all the different Earths and who was going to them, and like my notes are just I have arrows going to different places, and yeah.
Now I've been looking forward to the Kevin Conroy bit for months.
A lot of people are unhappy with it.
I would count myself among them. I was just going to say, I've been looking forward to him for months, but the best part of this episode was the Lex Luthor, Superman, Lois, Iris storyline as they pinged from Earth to Earth.
We had yet again another mind-controlled Superman.
It's in my notes as well.
Yeah.
And he mentions how he was mind-controlled previously, because I didn't realise, but Christopher Reeve and then Brandon Routh, it was like a James Bond situation. That is the same Superman later in time, which I wasn't aware of. So Brandon Routh now is the Kingdom Come Superman. And he talked about when I was brainwashed before, and he's talking about Superman 3, which I had no idea about. I had no idea that this sort of connective tissue. But as we mentioned in our Titans wrap-up episode, what is it with the super fam getting goddamn brainwashed? It's absurd. Connor was brainwashed last week. Kara's been brainwashed. Tyler Hoechlin was brainwashed in Supergirl season 1. Christopher Reeve, Superman, has been brainwashed.
I think it's they're like, what can we do to the super fam to weaken them? And I kind of feel that Superman and Supergirl are kind of overly powered. They have limitless supply. They're basically gods. So, I mean, the only weakness they have is their minds, and so writers just exploit the hell out of that.
Do you remember that short film we watched a while ago, Superman vs. Shazam?
Yeah.
Utterly forgettable. Probably never see it again in my life. But the interesting thing about that was that I found out that Superman all of a sudden has a weakness to magic.
Yeah.
That is the only other thing, obviously, apart from kryptonite, that I can even think of that he's weak to. When Brandon Routh Superman was fighting Tyler Hoechlin Superman, I thought that was a really great fight. I would love to see more of kind of Superman in Metropolis doing fights if this TV show does happen. I was pretty happy with that. But let's go back and let's talk about all the Earths they went to. They went to Earth 75, where they found out that Superman was dead, and then they went to Earth
167.
Then they went to Earth 167, and they found Tom Welling. You're a Smallville guy. I'm not. What did that mean to you?
It was just super cool, and the way Tom Welling played it again was super cool. Because Smallville sort of ended when he came into himself as Superman.
That final shot is him kind of finally pulling the thing, yeah.
and taking off in
Yeah.
flight, and you know the last scene you finally get Clark Kent as Superman rather than just this kind of alien kid trying to find his feet in a foreign place. To see an older Clark Kent who's like settled down, he's working on the farm, he's just really kind of unfazed by everything. You can sort of imagine that this is what Superman would be like after, you know, a couple decades of being Superman, just like, oh yeah, it was Lex Luthor, and apparently the multiverse is in danger, and then Lois shows up, and she's like, yeah, kids just made a mess. And he's like, okay, I'll go clean that up.
Yeah. I didn't watch Smallville, but I do know about Michael Rosenbaum's Lex Luthor. I would be so interested to know where he would have slotted in to this episode. But the moment when Tom Welling's Clark Kent looked at John Cryer's Lex Luthor and just went, you're not Lex. Just cut him in, like, cut the actor in half, cut the character in half.
Well, and like comparatively, this Lex is quite a bit smaller
Yeah.
than Michael Rosenbaum's
Yeah.
Lex.
Yeah.
He looked, and next to Tom Welling, he looked like
A child.
Yeah.
I just felt it was so perfect because I can't really remember what I thought about John Cryer in Supergirl season 4, but everything in this I've disliked it. Him like winking at Kara, him being so kind of snide. It's quite an icky Lex Luthor,
Yeah.
and I see Lex Luthor as a very powerful, rightly so. He'd probably be my number 2 all-time DC villains after the Joker. You know,
The John Cryer's Lex Luthor is very sort of smarmy. He reminds me
Yeah.
more of like a used car
Yeah,
salesman than, you know, an actual rival and equal to Superman. I think Smallville did the relationship between the two of them really, really well, to the point that you end up sympathizing with Lex Luthor because Clark Kent is kind of a shitty friend.
Yeah.
And you can sort of see why he gets resentful and distrustful, and it's kind of a similar thing to the storyline that's happening with Lena and Kara at the moment, where, you know, you have this family, the Luthors, where they're just absolutely despicable people, you know, horrible parents, constantly betraying each other, and their kids are just trying to kind of like cling to some semblance of normality, and it takes them a long time to open up to people, and then, you know, they open up to one of the super fam and end up getting betrayed and lied to again. And so you can really see where those seeds of evilness are sort of sown in, and I like that about Smallville's Lex Luthor.
Yeah. He seems like a great Lex Luthor, and if anything would make me go back and watch Smallville, it would be to see his Lex Luthor in full.
He's the best part about the show,
Yeah,
really. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's why I watch Smallville, is for his Lex Luthor.
Yeah. I don't watch Parks and Rec, but I always watch the Nick Offerman like supercuts of all his bits together. I'll probably do that rather than watching the whole show from the beginning, but I would have loved to have seen where he slotted into this. And I just loved that Tom Welling's Clark Kent just cut John Cryer.
Yeah.
Not Lex Luthor, but cut John Cryer right down to size. And it was nice that they seemed to have their happy ending, because I don't know if the show established them kind of living happy ever after.
A bit, yeah. It was sort of implied
Yeah.
that they were going to live happily ever
Yeah.
after. And I mean, that was a great pairing as well. Like the two actors playing Lois and Clark, Tom Welling, I can't remember the actor doing Lois, but they had great chemistry. And again, it was a situation where they really built Lois up to be on par with Clark and somebody who actually could be his equal and his partner. And I really like it when they do that with the love interest, because a lot of times in comic books the love interest is just this like damsel in distress that has to be saved. But in Smallville, Lois she had her own agency. She was a bit of a badass in herself, and you could believe her as this hard-hitting journalist.
I don't know about you, but I get the same feeling from Bitsy Tulloch, who is Arrowverse's Lois Lane. I enjoy her more. I mean, we've seen her like in 3 episodes total across the years.
She's great. I enjoyed her on Grimm as well. She was one of the best parts about Grimm. So like the actor herself is just, she's phenomenal, and she's brought a real life to Lois. And I think a lot of times Lois falls into the same category as Superman, is that writers get really lazy with her character and they don't do a lot of stuff with her. But I've been pretty impressed so far.
I mean, I take her over Iris, over Kara, over most people, the other kind of journalists within that world, or people that are part of the super fam. Then they go and meet Brandon Routh's Kingdom Come, Superman. They have this great fight. They find out that the Joker basically came to Metropolis and killed everyone in the Daily Planet. They couldn't mention him by name, but heavily implied. And yeah, he was the Kryptonian that had lost more than any mortal man could possibly bear. This might be a good time to talk about the 7 Paragons, actually, which we haven't mentioned yet. these 7 people that supposedly can go up against the Anti-Monitor and prevent crisis from happening.
So it's the paragon of hope, courage, truth, destiny, love, honor, and humanity. And in this episode, we find out about the first 4. It's hope, courage, truth, and destiny.
Hope is Supergirl, destiny is Sarah Lance, truth is this Kingdom Come Superman, and courage is Kate.
Yeah, although we don't find that out until the end of the episode, but it is heavily implied. If you've watched any of these shows at all, you can pretty much figure out that like Kate is going to be the paragon of courage, because they send her to Earth 99 to meet a version of Batman that will lead her to the paragon of courage, and she just kind of presumes that this Batman is going to be the paragon because of the Bruce that she knows.
This Batman, obviously played by Kevin Conroy, something we've all been looking forward to. He is the Batman that lived long enough to see himself become the villain, quoting, I think, Christian Bale's Batman. It was great to see him in his little, exoskeleton kind of thing, because he's had a fight with Superman. I enjoyed it, but I guess I wanted him to be the hero, a hero.
I think a lot of people wanted him to be a hero,
yeah.
And particularly because Kevin Conroy is so iconic as Batman. I kind of liked seeing Batman as a villain.
Yeah.
With a lot of superheroes, it is a very fine line between them being the good guy and them being the villain, and a lot of villains, likewise, one little thing changes and they might have been on the other side.
He had all these trophies from all the people that he'd killed. He talked about Clayface is now a puddle. We had the Riddler's cane. We had a blood-stained Joker playing card. We had Mr. Freeze's little ice globe. And we had Superman's glasses, which Kara saw. And that sufficiently freaked her out into talking to Kate, and they had this conversation, and Bruce's exoskeleton lined with kryptonite, obviously, was great, straight out of the comics. I completely agree. I think if any superhero is going to go bad, it's Batman. He's the one that walks that line more than anyone else, but I guess my childhood one, that wouldn't have been the one I would pick to do it. Maybe, get George Clooney's out with his bat nipples, and he can be the one that goes evil. Seeing the animated series' Batmobile in the background was just, blew my mind. It was unlike any Easter egg I've seen in years and years and years. That was fantastic, because it's a very specific looking vehicle. And yeah, they killed him. Yeah. And they got back to the Wave Rider, and it was basically one of those scenarios where the Monitor was like, and the answer was love the whole time. Or in Wizard of Oz, Dorothy, it was in you the whole time. And we find out that Kate is the paragon of courage. Yeah. The other storyline in this episode was Sarah and Mia and Constantine and the Flash taking Oliver's body to Earth 18, where there was a working Lazarus pit.
Like the only working Lazarus pit left in the multiverse. Things that I got excited about in this episode were, one, Leonard Snart as the AI voice. I love it every time Wentworth Miller comes back. Snart is one of my favorite Legends characters, and every time he makes an appearance, I just get all giddy and excited. And so when he came on, that was just amazing. I also really like that Batwoman and Supergirl went off together on their mission, because we've talked about that a lot, how we want to see Batwoman and Supergirl kind of get up to shenanigans together. And
they seem like they kind of balance each other out.
I was just going to say exactly the same thing. They really balance each other out, and we see a lot of that. It's interesting because on one hand, it is kind of a parallel to the relationship between Batman and Superman, but it's different at the same time. So it's not just rehashing the same old material. I thought for a minute in part 3 we were going to have kind of a conflict between the two of them, but we'll get to that later.
Whatever happens now, some Earths are going to have to be rebuilt. I just pray, for whatever reason, Earth 38 stays dead, because I want to see these two characters having... I think the backdoor pilot for The Flash was in a season of Arrow, and I think a season of The Flash had Arrow in it, or an episode of Flash had Arrow in it. And so if they're on the same Earth, there's no reason why... We don't need a big crossover. There's no reason why these two characters can't work together. World's finest. If this is the world's finest we're getting... Let's have them just in an episode of Batwoman and Supergirl. Like every Batwoman Supergirl season.
We could, get a version of the Justice League.
Yeah, we're getting close, aren't we?
We are. We've got Batwoman, we've got Supergirl, we've got...
Helen of Troy went to Themyscira. We saw Hal Jordan's Green Lantern jacket hanging up somewhere. So he is in the process of being made a Green Lantern, whether or not he is the HBO Green Lantern. Yeah.
Mia is going to be the new Green Arrow.
Martian Manhunter, did you say that one?
No, I haven't seen Martian Manhunter. And The Flash, of course. That's a pretty good team for a
Yeah.
Justice League. So that would be exciting. Maybe next year's crossover we'll get kind of a Justice League type thing.
Absolutely,
Maybe the
yeah.
Titans will come into it.
Anything else about this episode? I just loved seeing John Constantine. I
Yeah,
loved him
we-
not being a part of the, not the Titans, not being part of the Legends, him being there kind of under his own steam. And they know that obviously they can bring Oliver's body back, but they can't bring his mind back. And for whatever reason, Constantine has some kind of performance issues with getting his magic
There's
mojo
something in
going.
the atmosphere that's blocking his magic.
Now, I felt that Sarah and Mia had a lot of kind of forced dialogue, and they were kind of didn't like each other. Mia said, Nissa told me everything I need to know about Sarah Lance. By the end, they were kind of friends. Question, are they being put together because Sarah is going to jump ship from Legends and she's going to be part of this Canaries or whatever TV show that's coming, and this was them getting together?
It would be really interesting if they did that.
Yes, it would be.
I think I would miss her on Legends, but I would be happy just to have her character anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a win-win, but I think she is a really, really vital, strong part of Legends. Taking her away from that show, I think, would damage it.
I agree. My second question will be, how long does Legends have left? Is this a kind of planting a seed on the off chance it's kind of cancelled or something?
I think Legends it's one of those shows that could kind of go on forever, like, because it doesn't take itself too seriously. They've even got like the whole meta thing about referencing crossovers.
Yeah.
And I mean, Sarah at one point says, I promised the crew they wouldn't have to do any more crossovers.
Yeah.
One other thing about this is the Batwoman timeline, which we've discussed a lot, and I even like put a tweet out there saying like, will somebody please explain the Batwoman timeline to me? And somebody was just like, yeah, it makes complete sense. She was unknown last year. It's like, but no, she just started this year, so like,
yeah, because this is months after her beginning.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, because Bruce's library had a picture of her and Alice, who is called Beth. Yeah. In his world, Beth is still alive and Alice is still alive, and he's giving it to her fresh. This isn't in the future from her TV show. This is in the present from her TV show. And it doesn't make sense. So whoever said that on Twitter can go fuck themselves because it doesn't make sense. Well, the only way it makes sense is if the Elseworlds crossover was Earth something else, but we know it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was this Earth. So we just have to forget that it exists for it to make sense.
So moving on to the Flash episode of Crisis.
There were some great moments in this for sheer geeky Easter egg fan service kind of stuff. Black Lightning made his bow. I know you were particularly interested about this.
And I thought that, because I read somewhere that he was only going to be in the Legends episode, and so like when this was starting up and they said Cress Williams, I got like super excited, and so I was waiting for the whole episode for him to come through. A little bit disappointed because the combination I wanted to see was Black Lightning and Green Arrow. I think Jefferson Pierce is the only person in the world who wouldn't take Oliver Queen's shit. But I was really excited to see him there, and like Cress Williams is amazing, and like the moment when he finds out that his Earth is gone and like his family is gone, and like he doesn't completely break down and like bawl, but you can tell he's experiencing like really strong loss at that moment. And he's just like, he's an absolute joy to watch when he's doing anything. And like he goes and like tries to zap the energy from the anti-monitor wave tower thing. And so I was really excited to see him. And I'm glad that we get him in more than one episode, because I was thinking I was going to have to wait until January or whenever to like
see him,
get some Black Lightning.
I've seen Black Lightning season 1 and season 2, and they're a very close-knit family. So you could really see the pain. He conveyed that really well. I mean, my assumption is I don't know anything, but episode 5 will be like Endgame, where everybody is there. That's my hope, just led by, Oliver Queen in some kind of form. So I imagine he'll be there for that. I also wonder whether Tom Welling will be like dressed up for that. I don't know how, considering we know what we've been told something, but I want them all to be there, all in their outfits, and some people we don't even know about yet. That would be really cool. I want to basically rip off the entire Endgame final scene unashamedly. Next one, Earth 90 Flash. We haven't actually been to Earth 90 in this crossover, but he's back. And he's on this kind of treadmill that's keeping the antimatter cannon from destroying the Earth or something. And he gets off it, comes back on it. But I every time I see Wesley John Shipp, he plays numerous people throughout the Arrowverse, every time I see him, it's just a joy. Always gives 110%. And
he always has the best advice for Barry too.
Yeah.
Like it's great. It was a little bit disappointing because we talked about this with each other and with other people about how the Barry Allen that disappears in Crisis isn't going to be our Barry Allen.
Yeah.
I think most of us kind of figured it would be Earth 90's Barry Allen that would take the hit.
And can I just say the flashback to his TV show, that was possibly the most. I mean, I've never even seen that TV show.
Neither have I.
Of all these 3 episodes, that may have been the most like emotionally affected I was by something. Don't know who she was from Adam.
Tina, his wife.
Tina, his wife. Fair enough. I thought that was really well done. This feels like it's giving a lot of TV shows a send off, which is great, and it's canonising all these shows into one.
I mean,
it's
absolutely
fantastic.
beautiful.
Yeah.
What they're doing, and they're actually pulling it off,
Yeah.
which is amazing. I was worried when they were like, this person is going to be in crisis, this person's going to be in crisis. I was just thinking like this could go so wrong in so many ways, but they're actually pulling it off, which is super exciting.
Now, the third huge bit of fan service, a TV show I've never seen, but fuck me, it was superb. I've never seen it. I want to watch it due to this 2 minutes on screen. They went to Earth 666 and Lucifer was there.
Yeah. I completely forgot that he was going to be in the crossover, and when he showed up, I didn't even think about it when they said Earth 666. I was just, making notes, watching along, and then he comes out, and it was just like, Lucifer! Because I do watch the show. The show in itself is kind of, it's a weird supernatural cop procedural.
With the devil.
With the devil, yeah.
That's the tagline for the show. It's a weird cop procedural with the devil. I mean, that was the interplay between Constantine and Lucifer was, it was superb.
Yeah.
It was absolutely superb. Constantine and Lucy, as they called themselves, they were kind of having this little lovers quarrel. And he just gave them this kind of, it was like a playing card, like a tarot card, yeah. And that sent them off to purgatory to continue the quest to get Oliver's soul back. But that was the best trailer or teaser for any TV show I've ever seen, and it made me curious to watch some Lucifer, so I may have to check it out. Even as somebody who doesn't watch the show, that really stood out as a great bit of fan service.
Maybe we should do some like Lucifer bonus content for our patrons. Yeah. We also had the very first scene, Earth 203, which some people have said
Birds
of Prey.
Yeah.
I think Barbara was mentioned. That's the only person I recognized. I didn't recognize the woman that we actually saw.
I think the woman that we saw was a form of huntress, and the woman she was speaking to was Barbara Gordon after she's been injured, and she'd become Oracle, who is the woman in the chair in that TV show.
So yeah, that was our other little Easter egg.
I'd totally forgotten about that one. I think I may have put it on my little list over there, but yeah, it's just amazing, all the people they've got involved in this show, and I love it. I'm going to rattle through what actually happened. Harbinger betrayed the Monitor. That means the wave is sent out. All Earths are destroyed. Earth 1 was the final kind of holdout. Even Earth 1 was destroyed. The Wave Rider was destroyed. Pariah managed to send the 7 Paragons to the Vanishing Point, which is a location from Legends of Tomorrow, Season 1 that I totally forgot existed. It exists outside of space and time.
I was actually kind of sad that like a lot of them got evaporated, and that it was like pared down to these 7 people.
Yeah, I mean, it was the equivalent of the snap in Endgame. We're down to the 7 Paragons. I've got to be honest, my like low-key MVP for the whole thing so far has been Brandon Routh's Kingdom Come Superman. Out of nowhere, I wasn't expecting it, but he's the kind of character that I've most been happy to see and felt most confident in. I've just enjoyed having him around. And when John Crye's Lex Luthor scribbled his name on the Book of Destiny, became the Paragon of Truth, I was so disappointed. I was so annoyed that Lex Luthor is now part of this team of 7 that have to try and save the multiverse. That was my kind of little bitter bit at the end.
I have to say I'm not a big fan of this Lex Luthor. No. I haven't liked him at all. I didn't like him in Supergirl, haven't liked him in The Crisis. I wish they would just get it over with and kill him already.
I think he was used very sparingly in Supergirl Season 4, and I think that's the only reason maybe why I've kind of tolerated him. He's just so, like you said, the used car salesman, the smarmy, the winking. You feel like you touch him and your hand will be wet. He's just that kind of such a weird character.
And then you like put him next to Lena, and it's like there's no comparison whatsoever.
It's night and day.
I could believe, like I don't want her to be, but I could totally believe her as a supervillain that could like challenge the super family. Like she's smart, she's badass, she's brave. She's the whole package, really. And then you put her next to John Cryer's Lex Luthor, and he just, like, he seems like an amateur.
Supergirl, Sarah Lance, Lex Luthor, Kate Kane, Dr. Ryan Choi, Barry Allen, and Martian Manhunter are now at the Vanishing Point. We don't know what the plan is. They're just all there. I mean, I think Sarah's been to the Vanishing Point. She may have some kind of insight. But that's where it leaves us, except for one other scene where they're on Lian Yu, which is like the purgatory, and we find out that Oliver is becoming Spectre. I don't know who Spectre is. Apparently plays a huge role in the Crisis comic. But it just feels like a very convenient way for Stephen Amell to pick and choose anytime he ever wants to come back into the Arrowverse. Some dude called Jim Corrigan comes out of the bushes and says, Oliver, don't go back to your life. Choose death. Take over this role from me. And yeah, I don't know what skill set the Spectre has, but presumably it's going to be him versus the Anti-Monitor, because Harbinger betrayed the Monitor, killed the Monitor, and that's the cliffhanger ending we're left with. In a word, well, in a couple of words, I mean, these 3 episodes together, how are you enjoying it so far?
This is the best part of the Arrowverse in a long time.
Yeah.
Without question. I have not been this excited about an Arrowverse TV show since waiting for Batwoman to come out.
Yeah.
And then that was a little bit of a letdown.
I think this is as close to a DC level Endgame event that we're going to get for at least 5 years. I don't think the films are going to sort themselves out anytime soon. If Titans, that level of investment, or this HBO Green Lantern built a world around itself, that could do it. But I just think this is it at the moment, and I hope DC fans will respect this. They will respect Arrow and the CW, and they're doing something really special here.
It's incredibly ambitious to bring all of these different parts of the DC universe together and weave them in such a way that it doesn't feel forced, that it feels very natural. I mean, part of that is that we have the multiverse, so yeah, you can very easily say, oh, this is happening on, such and such an Earth, this is happening on such and such an Earth. But the way they do it, and we just get these glimpses of other Earths, it feels really smooth and fluid and not the least bit forced. And they are doing loads of fan service, but there's still a good chunky story in there as well. We're even getting some character development. I mean, it's everything you could possibly want from something like this, really.
I mean, they're using people like Lucifer to actually do things, not just to be there to sort of point and look at. And they use Tom Welling in a really effective way. I think they're sowing seeds for kind of Mia down the line. I've really enjoyed it. I have very few complaints. I've given the episode 6.5, 8.5 and 7. So it's maintained a very high standard, I would say. DC in the films can be very hit and miss. They're doing something right here, so just try and appreciate it. I've seen so much fucking hate on Twitter, like you wouldn't believe.
Really, because all I've seen is people, like, aside from the Kevin Conroy thing, people being upset about that. All I've seen is like people being super excited. Yeah. Lots of spoilers out there though on Twitter. Like, there is so many people. Nobody's even trying to like be considerate.
It's interesting because I hadn't been spoiled for this at all, but last week's Titan finale, I was spoiled like 3 days in advance, and people were saying I shouldn't really say this, but X dies. I know this is a spoiler, but like admitting that they knew what they were doing, which is really strange.
Yeah, like weirdly, the goodbye scene between Barry, Cisco, and Caitlin, somebody posted a picture of that like 3 weeks ago. There have been a few spoilers that happened like way before the shows even aired, so some people are being like really irresponsible with spoilers out there. Like if you have the luxury of getting content way before other people, like, keep your mouth shut.
Keep your goddamn mouth shut.
Marvel fans know how to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I suppose DC fans haven't had anything they've needed to kind of keep secret for a long time. Anything you're looking forward to, anything you're hoping comes in the final 2 episodes? I mean, I don't think it will happen, but I would love a Green Lantern flyby in some way, shape or form.
And kind of like a nod to the Watchmen. I mean, I think that would be very cool. It's the only one we haven't seen. I mean, it probably takes place in a completely different universe from the rest of these guys, but I think it would be very cool. Other than that, I don't have a lot of expectations going forward. I'm really just happy to go along for the ride and to see where they take me.
I'm just going to rattle through all the Earths because I just find it fascinating. We've got a decent amount of Earths, and I love when the thing appears on screen and it kind of shuffles and then it tells you what Earth and what location we're on. Obviously, we know about Earth 1. We saw Earth 2 get eaten in Arrow. Earth 9, Titans. One of the biggest, my top 5 kind of wow shock moments was seeing.
Well, we actually watched it twice. That like opening
Yeah.
sequence. We watched like the episode, and then we went back and watched the first 2 minutes all over again.
Yeah, just seeing Jason Todd and
Hawk.
appear was amazing. I love that they're kind of canonised now with all of it. Earth 16 2046 Oliver. This is the Oliver apparently we've already met with the Legends. He's got one arm, or he's got like a robotic arm, and that's where baby Kent lands when they send him out when Argo's being destroyed. Earth 18 is where the Lazarus Pit. They found the
that was
Lazarus
the
Pit.
other thing that got spoiled like a few weeks ago. Somebody said talking about Lois and Clark sending their baby away on a ship to Earth because that never goes wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Earth 38 we know about. Earth 66 we saw Adam West, Robin, Burt Ward. Holy crimson skies, Batman, as he looks up into the air. I really enjoyed that. I think that was a good one. Earth 74, that's where the Legends have retired, and Leonard Snart is their version of Gideon, which, as you said, was absolutely perfect, and that's where they stole the Wave Rider from. Earth 75, they were briefly there, that's where Superman, Lex had already got there, and that Superman was dead. Earth 89, great to see Keaton's Earth. People have pointed out it was Batwoman's bat signal. It wasn't 89 Batman's bat signal, which would have been like the cherry on the cake. Earth 96 is the Reeves, Brandon Routh, Kingdom Come Superman world. Earth 99 was Kevin Conroy's Earth, where Beth is alive. I'm kind of hoping that isn't the Batman, the animated series Earth. It's just another one where Kevin Conroy happens to be old man Bruce Wayne. Earth 167 we talked about is Tom Wellings, where he's given up his powers. Earth 203 is the Birds of Prey one. Earth 666 is Lucifer's. And Earth X was the Ray. And I presume...
Presumably we'll see him again.
Yeah, I'm hoping he'll be there in the big finale. I couldn't be happier personally. Sometimes, it's a big crossover and we get our expectations so high, but there have been some really wonderful moments. To see Kevin Conroy live action as Bruce Wayne, that whole Lex, Superman, multiple Supermen storyline I thought was the best part of the whole, all 3 episodes so far. Seeing the Titans, John Constantine being John Constantine, being proper laddie with Lucifer as well, that conversation they had. I couldn't be happier, to be honest with you. I couldn't be happier. And January the 14th, they both come out January the 14th. I couldn't be more excited. I'm really looking forward to it.
Can't come soon enough, really.
Yeah. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook. We have a website which is
geeknerdpod.com. You can also find us on patreon.com/geeknerd, where if you like what we do, you can give us money to help us do more stuff. Plus, get some cool merch along the way.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.